Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Evening, Daniel. How are we?
I'm very good, thanks. I'm especially good because we're also joined all the way from Celtic Park by the one and only Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
Okay, boys, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Good.
Obviously, Keith, we will talk about Celtic and their win over Motherwell a bit later on. But
Swanee Mayfield was also at the Edinburgh Derby yesterday, so he's been in the right places this weekend. And of course, I think, as you said there, Daniel, we're probably going to start off by talking about another dreadful Rangers performance.
Yeah, obviously a 1-1 draw with Falkirk today at the Falkirk Stadium. Kind of running out of things to say. I mean, I thought it was another poor performance, although Russell Martin came out after it and insists the performances are getting better. I mean,
I'd like to know on what that is based, Daniel, and I say that for a reason. I believe the Americans are very obviously data-driven, stats-based, all that. Are they looking at something that's telling them that, you know, some algorithm that's telling them, yep, that's marginally better? Are they basing it upon, well, they only lost 2 goals against Sturm Graz and it was 6 in Bruges? Is that the stat that they're basing it on? What basis do they think the level of performances are improving and on an upward trajectory? Because I can't see it. I see nothing about Russell Martin's team now that's even remotely close to what it was that he said he was going to try and implement. There is no style. You know, they're making this big thing about, and he said afterwards today about, you know, it's not just about winning, you need to win in a certain way. There's nothing about Rangers. There's no strategic way of playing that's been implemented. In fact, it's quite the opposite. All the changes, the inverted fullbacks, all the stuff that he kind of talked about and what we saw in the very early days, that's all gone. He's reverted to type. He's reverted to players that he didn't want in the team in the first place. They're now his go-to guys. I heard him talk about Conor Barron. You know, I wish I would have given him more games earlier. This is a man that's absolutely grasping for some sort of life belt, and you know it's not working. He's drowning. I don't know how many more times we can say it, but and this is the critical bit, and this is, I've just written a column for tomorrow's paper, Dan, and here's the key to this. What does Andrew Kavanagh, the new owner and self-appointed chairman, absentee landlord, if you like, what is his view on all of this? Where is he? Why is he not fronting it up? What message, if any, does he have for the supporters? He cannot any longer adopt the ostrich position on the other side of the pond and sit and do nothing and say nothing. Even if his view is that he doesn't have to do anything, he should at least come out and speak to the Rangers fans, take ownership of this. Because, and this is where I actually feel quite sorry for Russell Martin, is that he is front and centre. He is, same as Brendan Rodgers has been talking about at Celtic, nobody else is coming out and owning it and taking responsibility. So every time that there's a message that has to get delivered, it's coming from Russell Martin. The Rangers fans don't want to hear anymore from Russell, none of this is my fault, Martin. They're fed up with it. So they don't want to hear it. What they need to know is, what is the sense of direction here? And if Andrew Kavanagh has decided, and it's a point of principle or a point of policy, that Rangers shouldn't chop and change, that they've made their bed and they're going to lie in it with Russell Martin, then come out and say so. Because what you've got right now is a guy that every time he's pushed out into a press conference is, Russell, will you resign? Will you be sacked? So Andrew Kavanagh can clear that up. And he should do. I think he, and I've said it many times, I do believe that this change of ownership was absolutely required. I do believe that Andrew Kavanagh will put a lot of time and passion and effort and ultimately cash into this. And I do believe that he'll probably get it right somewhere down the line. But the mistakes that are being made here are horrendous. The PR around the Rangers Football Club right now is a disgrace. And to the point that you've got the appointment of Kevin Thelwell's son in one of the most key, important roles in the football club, head of recruitment, because they've talked about the importance of the player trading model. Putting a 26-year-old kid that just happens to be related to the sporting director into that position. And it almost feels, as I said last week, like it's an act deliberately designed to antagonise the Rangers support. Where is Andrew Kavanagh in all of this? One can only assume that Andrew Kavanagh signed off on that idea, that, you know, that Kevin Thirlwell doesn't have the authority to go and appoint his own son into such a key position without at least running it past the owner and the chairman. So if Andrew Kavanagh thinks that's a good idea, again, there's a responsibility and an onus on him to come out and explain why. Because how does Kevin Thirlwell explain it? Just trust me on this one, he's great in Football Manager. He's been brilliant since he was 12. It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. And to the point that there is some sympathy now for Russell Martin. How many times can you ask the guy? Look, we heard the chants. They don't want you here. Yeah, I realise that. Well, do something about it. And he kept referring today to, I'll keep on doing it until I'm told I'm not required anymore. So again, he's actually, in that answer alone, almost screaming out, Andrew Kavanagh, where are you? Come out and say your bit. If you're backing him, come out and back him. If you're sacking him, just get on with it and sack him.
Before I bring you in, Swanee, and get your take on Russell Martin and Rangers, we've got plenty of comments coming in already. If you're watching at home, you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so. Not just on Rangers and Celtic, but all of the games from the Premiership weekend. Let me read out a few of these. Colin says, I'm a true blue for 50 years. He's the worst manager ever. John says, never mind getting rid of Martin. It's Thirlwell and Stewart that need to go first, as they'll be in charge of bringing in the next manager, and another disaster waiting to happen. Davey says, least attempts against Falkirk this season thus far. Surely it's the end for Martin. William echoes your sentiments, Keith, saying about time we heard from the owners, as this is a disaster under Stewart and Thirlwell. And Annette simply says, surely Russell Martin will be sacked. And just finally, our old pal Alistair Ramage thinks it's all James Tavernier's fault. Tavernier, see off Martin. You have to admire his genius. So, if anything, at least the Rangers fans are united, Swanee. I mean, do you see any way back for Russell Martin?
No, I don't. To be honest, we spoke on this. I think maybe one of the last times I was on, I was just thinking how preposterous it would be to sack a manager in such a short space of time. But the evidence is now just beyond. You can't disagree with what Keith said. I mean, what is the evidence? I didn't see the game today. I was obviously at Celtic Park. I didn't see what happened. But by everything I've heard, subsequently, just roughly speaking to a few boys that had an idea of what was going on, speaking to a couple of boys that were there from Record Sport, it was just the same old. I'm sure that's what Keith has alluded to. The point about Andrew Kavanagh coming out and speaking, I think, is absolutely key, because we all know international breaks are graveyards for football managers. We know that, especially struggling football managers. And this cannot just continue to drone on through the next 2 weeks of, it really needs the leadership to come out and clarify the situation. But if you're asking me, can he survive? I just can't see it. And I'm stunned that I'm actually saying that myself, because the prospect of turning over a manager so quickly is alien to me. I find it hard to believe. But then again, I look south of the border. I think they want rid of Ange Postecoglou from Forest after about 4 weeks. So that's just football now. The bottom line is, every manager can be spared a chance of a bit of bedding in time. This has been catastrophic. What's happening at Rangers? Catastrophic. That's beyond bedding in time stuff. That's recruitment. The guys that have been brought in are clearly not up to it. 1 minute they're playing together as a unit and we're all for one and one for all. The next minute they've no character and all this. I mean, you're getting mixed messages out the manager. Yet the only thing that's not mixed are the performances, which have flatlined low bar. Can't continue.
But Swanee, and this is why, perhaps you thought I was jumping the gun with this. But I'm sorry, you can only base your opinion around the facts. And the facts, where Russell Martin is concerned, is he lasted 16 games last season. So this time last season, Southampton were pulling the plug on him. And for why? Because they were spectacularly unsuccessful. They were a car crash in the Premier League. They were shipping goals left, right and centre. It was all through this stubbornness to stick to his principles and his way of playing the game. And it was making Southampton a laughingstock. Not only did it make Southampton a laughingstock in the Premier League, but it sent them spiralling towards relegation, even though
Yeah.
they pulled the plug on it after 16 games. So, and included in all that, Swanee, you had players at Southampton that clearly were being asked to play a style of football which they didn't agree with, which didn't suit them, and what they had to then front it up as the fall guys, because they're the guys that are out in the pitch every week.
But what I saw was slightly different. What I saw was slightly different, Keith, was that principled style of football that he wanted to play is high risk, and he simply didn't have the players good enough at Southampton to do it. Now he should have changed that plan B, and you can say what you like, well, that's fair play to him for sticking away down, but you'd Mo Salah pick in your pocket, or you'd you know top, Alexander Isak pick in your pocket, you're going to get done. That's fine. My view when he came in was that the teams in Scotland, with the budget that Rangers have got, that style should have been able to work had the recruitment been correct. Quite clearly, that's been a disaster as well. Because
Swanee,
if Rangers want to play a style of play, Keith, to dominate the ball and dominate games and dominate teams with the budget they've got and the players that they should be able to sign, they should be able to do that.
Yeah,
Motherwell were here at Celtic Park and did it here.
Swanee, I was just about to say, Motherwell are the case in point here. Here's the guy, and he's done that in a shoestring.
Yeah.
So, if he's able to do this on a shoestring at Motherwell, completely reinvent the way they play the game, go to Celtic Park and come within a few seconds of getting a massive result there. And I saw, by the way, the second goal that Motherwell lost, which was a flashback to Southampton under Russell Martin.
Yeah. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
But he's done it, and he's done it with a level of recruitment which is, 100 times, 200 times below the level that Rangers are operating at in terms of just sheer expense.
And that's the type of thing which is
just for Russell Martin.
That's what's killing Russell Martin. You're absolutely spot on. You're 100% correct with that. I just thought he would be able to implement a style of football, and he would be able to recruit good enough players to carry it out, and he hasn't done it. And there's no way back. There's no way back.
In the comments, guys, Rangers, is he okay? Says 5 wins in 17. He's the worst Rangers manager in our history. He's the most disillusional, unlikable guy I've ever had the misfortune of listening to. Get him out and Patrick Stewart follow him. This one it's from our old pal Gianni, but I've lost it now. Gianni seems to say, Keith, that he's hearing that tonight is the end for Russell Martin. He says he's been given the whispers.
Who told him that? The chef?
There it is. He says, Gianni says it's all over for Russell Martin, I'm hearing. And Marzuno always offers us a little bit of comedy relief. He says, the head of recruitment missed the game. He was already committed to a bouncy castle birthday party. He'd already bought So, I mean, look, Keith, I'm bringing up that thing from Gianni to say, look, we're now into the international break, of course. Is there any prospect that Russell Martin will go in this period?
I'm not sure that there is. This is why I'm saying this is why you need clarity. You need a clear voice from the top of the chain. And Andrew Kavanagh is, I don't know, hiding under his desk somewhere in Philadelphia eating biscuits. He needs to take ownership of this, and he needs to do it urgently. And even if it's a message that he thinks the fans don't want to hear, i.e., do you know what, we're sticking with him, then at least they've got clarity. At least they know. But right now, and particularly, I'm going to go back to this appointment of Robbie Thelwell. That is almost screaming out a message to the Rangers support, right? And I'm saying there's no way that this can be done without Kavanagh signing off on it, green lighting it, and thinking, "Yep, I approve this." Yeah. So if we're all pretty acceptant of that, and I think we have to be, then what message are they actually sending out to the Rangers supporters? Because it looked very much to me like this is our club, not your club, and we'll do with it what we bloody well want.
Yeah.
And you just need to sit down and shut up and let us get on with it.
I think you're spot on there, Keith. I think you're spot on there, because Kavanagh does have to sign off on that, and they must have known what the optics were going to be. I think you're spot on. This is our toy. We'll do it. I've paid all my money for this, and this is our toy, and I'll do it like it. Thanks.
But isn't that? I mean, that's nuclear ground to be walking on, Swanee. If you're actually telling your own supporters to sit down, shut up, leave us to get on with this, it's almost the American version of Gerald Ratner.
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
That's not knowing your marketplace.
Well, exactly, and that's where I think there's been a bit of arrogance, real arrogance on steroids, where there's this belief that we can come in, these guys don't know what they're talking about, we'll run this better, it's only Scottish football. And that's what's screaming, that's the message that's screaming out of Rangers right now. And these supporters, whether they like them, whether they dislike them, whether they respect their opinion, whether they don't respect their opinion, these supporters have been in this for the long haul. That's by the very nature of being a supporter. And no support in Scottish football has had to go through quite what these Rangers fans have had to go through over the last 10 years, more than a decade now. And it's almost, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Rangers supporters have seen so many of these people coming and going and promising jam tomorrow, and now they're stuck witnessing the worst manager that they've ever had, and potentially the worst Rangers team that I can remember since they were probably down in the 3rd division.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody somewhere is going to have to take ownership of it and try and win the fans around, even if it's telling them something that they might not want to hear. And I found that interesting because Russell Martin used those very words more or less the other day when asked, shortly after being asked by our guys about the appointment of Robbie Thelwell. He said, Rangers fans, I can't remember exact words, it was something along the lines of, well, they might not like everything they hear, but we've got to do stuff here. We've got to give the club something to build towards. So if this is it, if they've made a decision, well, look, you've had Rangers guys in at that football club for the last don't know how long, and you've won one title in 14 years. So damn right, we're going to rip it up and start again and do something completely different. I could almost understand that. Maybe they need to come out and say it.
Yeah, you should say that, Keith. That's exactly what you should say. If Andrew Kavanagh's got to come out, that's exactly what you should say. Mm-hmm. I've had a look back and seen what's happened over the past few years, and the club's going nowhere. So it's going to have to be root and branch. You're going to have to suck this up for a while. I know it's absolutely appalling, but you're going to have to suck it up for even longer because it's going to take time to turn it. At least if he says that, whether the fans don't want to hear it or not, or don't believe it, but at least you could go, well, okay, I kind of see what the thinking is there.
I think so, Swanee, but he's going to have a real credibility issue by keeping the likes of Russell Martin in the position because that displays an ignorance. If you can't see what everybody else sees here, you're either ignorant or just completely arrogant. Either way is not a good look. And I'm afraid that also applies to the work that Kevin Thelwell's doing.
Well, I was just about to say, Keith, you actually put that on Kevin Thelwell, do you not? Because, I mean, really and truly, Andrew Kavanagh is appointing these people to appoint his manager for him. I mean, Andrew Kavanagh doesn't have to be a football man. He doesn't have to be. He's employing people into these positions to make these decisions. So it's not necessarily him. It's Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell who recommended this, and he signed off it. So they're the ones, really, who should be in the firing line.
100% agree, Swanee. 100% agree. But what I would say to you and what I would find concerning from a Rangers perspective is, yes, that's exactly right. He's brought in Kevin Thelwell because they believe, for whatever reason, that he's the man best qualified to make the big decisions. And I get all that, but when he is employing his own son, a 26-year-old who has just been a low-level scout at a couple of clubs previous to that, and making him head of recruitment, I'm afraid the owner, chairman of the club, has surely his duty bound to step in and question that. But
that's my point. That's my point, Keith. To me, Andrew Kavanagh can't just step in and dismiss Russell Martin, because he would have to dismiss Kevin Thelwell and co as well. They're the ones who appointed him. However, if you've just signed off on the new recruitment man, who happens to be attached very closely, then that tells you that he's not going to be paying him off anytime soon. So
I think that's the conclusion.
Where is the situation here? That goes back to what you said about 10 minutes ago, Keith. It's almost like this is what we're going to be doing, and that's it.
Yeah,
and that's frightening.
Time's getting away from us, guys, and we need to move on to Celtic. But just before we do, Rangers' next match, I believe, is against Dundee United at home on the 18th of October. What's your guys' gut feeling? Do you think Russell Martin will still be Rangers' manager?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, for all the reasons that we've just discussed.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
I also think, by the way, the stadium might be round about not even half full. I think you could be starting to look at crowds of round about the 20,000 mark at Rangers. And that would be a throwback to when the early 80s, Swanee.
We always think that though, don't we, Keith? But because there's been that many season tickets bought, and then you find that somebody who doesn't get a chance to go to the game, they give their season ticket away and the seats usually end up filled. Do you know what I mean? It might be that the actual guys who bought the season tickets aren't there and they've given up on it. But a friend or a family member might go, I quite fancy going, you know. So it never actually ends up as bad as what you think it's going to be.
Well,
I think you might be right though that there may be less than 50% of the actual season ticket holders actually there, but the seats might be filled. If that makes sense.
The one thing I would say to counter that is, Swanee, have you watched Rangers lately? I know you didn't see the game today, but have you watched any of their performances recently? Because
last one I saw was the game against Hibs,
right,
which is probably a bad barometer because he played okay that day.
Yeah. No, my point was going to be watching Rangers is there's no joy to be derived from watching the way that they play football. It's a desperately laboured, plodding sort of a cocktail of nothing, and it's actually painful. It's excruciating to watch it. I think they managed to get 2 shots on goal over the course of 90 minutes. Majorski's goal today, it came from nowhere, by the way. The Rangers never looked, wasn't like they'd been building and the goal was coming. It came from nowhere, out of nothing. It was okay, it was worked quite well, but the actual there is nothing to be enjoyed by watching them play football. If this was the way that, see if Russell Martin was the first ever manager and he was the guy that brought up the concept of association football, and this is what he put in a pitch, none of us would be watching it. They'd get the game stopped. I swear to God, we'd all be away watching, I don't know, rugby or something. Maybe.
We've got plenty of comments coming in. Again, if you want to get involved, please do so. Swanee, in the comments, Ross says Celtic are scraping by and it's eventually going to catch up with us. Hearts are serious contenders this season. You were obviously at Celtic Park today. Is that an accurate summation of how the game went?
Yes, I think that's absolutely spot on. And the caller actually says it's going to catch up with us. I think he said it's already caught up with them. Hibs last week, Braga in midweek. And very, very close, sailed very close to the win today. Motherwell were excellent here, and they passed it the way you would expect Celtic to pass it. Didn't panic when Celtic tried to press them. In fact, they invited Celtic to press them, and when they did, they were able to pick them off. But they made a good start to the game. Celtic had scored 2 goals in this game, I felt, without creating a chance. As crazy as that sounds, because the penalty was like a half clearance. Callum McGregor's choked a volley into the ground and it's hit an arm. Penalty's given. Motherwell then get their goal for Celtic making a mistake passing it out. They then get the penalty, which I think was a penalty. And Motherwell, to me, were in control at that point. Celtic didn't really look as though they had many ideas. Very little ideas. No ideas. And Keith alluded to it earlier. What Callum Ward was thinking at that moment when he passed that ball straight to Benjamin Megan. I don't know, he'll be having nightmares about it tonight. But listen, we spoke about it. I spoke to a couple of lads from Motherwell here today, just after the game. And you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And that's the way they do that type of thing is what got them beyond the pressing, got them at Celtic at various occasions during the game. That's going to happen. It's just going to happen. One as glaring as that, your hope never happens. You know, it's a bit less obvious than that one. But even at 2-2, I was sitting here with 10-15 minutes to go. And usually at that stage, I mean, listen, any one of us that have seen enough games here at Celtic Park, when it's 2-2 with 15 minutes to go, you have a picture in your head of Celtic battering the door down the away goalkeeper. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all. It was a gentle chap off the door, I would say. And Motherwell looked as dangerous and threatening as Celtic did when they ran out of legs a wee bit. Motherwell, that's the only thing I would say. But Celtic were nowhere near it. They're nowhere near it. They are nowhere near it at the moment.
What about the atmosphere in the stadium, Swanee? Because this will be impacting in the Celtic sport. We've seen, you know, we're getting plenty of comments about it. They're finding this a difficult watch.
Yeah, a very difficult watch. But what actually surprised me, and I think it's something that's been noted by a few of the other guys that have been at Celtic games recently, that whereas in the past, I felt here sometimes, even when Celtic were maybe 8-10 points clear in the league, the fans would be right after the team if things were, you know, they didn't start well or they went behind in a game or something like that. I almost find that more accepting would be the wrong phrase, but you almost feel them looking at the pitch and going, well, this isn't these guys' fault, really. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near as toxic as you would imagine that it would have been at 2-1 down. Sure, there was groans. Sure, there was moans. Sure, there was complaints. Sure, there was the odd howl of derision when a pass went astray or whatever. But I've seen it worse. I've seen it, I've heard that a lot worse. The vitriol has been channeled completely to the board. Banners were up again today. Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure if it was the same, a sweary word involved, so I can't say it, but there was a banner that I spotted on the far side of the stadium at kick-off. It was either an identikit or it was the same one that had been smuggled its way around to the very front of the director's box and was unfurled at 2-2 in the 92nd minute just before Celtic scored. It's actually quite amusing. But it's the Celtic fans, we said it a month ago, 2 or 3 results isn't going to get rid of this. 2 or 3 results isn't going to get rid of this because the fans are. I don't know how they're going to go about getting change. That's the thing, the way they set up is at Celtic. I don't know how they're going to go about getting it.
But they won't get it for it.
No, they won't. But it seems to have cut the team a little bit of slack. And to be fair, Keith and Daniel, they need it because they're nowhere near it. I mean, I'm looking at guys today like Rio Hatate. Nowhere near it. A guy that looks like he should be gone. I think somebody made our colleague Michael Gannon made a good point to me. He said that if you're, unless you're homegrown, if you've been at Celtic for more than 3 years, either you've failed or the club's failed you to move you on. Shouldn't be here longer than that. Dies in my head. I mean, listen, dies in my head. I was having a howling game. That's the only word I can use. I ended up having to mark him up because I felt sorry for him when he scored the winning goal. I ended up giving him a 7. Because he played in all the positions across the front line. This is a guy that was being asked to play as a striker because they couldn't get a replacement signed. Then they signed 2 wingers who both play on his side. So he ends up having to go and play in the right hand side. He's like I always thought you built your team around a star man. You didn't build a team and shuffle the star man into some space that'll that'll do. Because he signed 2 guys to play off the line. So Maida played all 3 positions today. He played off the right, hopeless. He moved over to the left. Within 5 minutes, he'd done more than what he'd done in the rest of the game, and then he went through the middle and scored the goal. So, got to hand it to him for his perseverance, but there's so many guys not at it. And Celtic are so disjointed, there's no fluidity, there's no pace in the game. And the one thing that people had been making the point about in recent weeks is they've faced the old low block, as they call it these days, but packed defences, and they haven't been able to get the pace again around and make things happen. And they've had today. Yeah. Mother will play the game that would have given Celtic space if they had the pace and the thrust to get in and make something happen. And they didn't. That's the bottom line. They didn't. They are living hand to mouth at the moment, Celtic.
This comes back to the conversation, and I know what you're going to say. Come back to me in December, blah blah blah. But this is the reason I'm putting a big red circle around this particular season because so many of the things that you said there ring true. You've got players like Dyson Maida, like Rio Hatate. They've gone through the cycle. Mm-hmm. They're now killing time until they're someplace else, right? Yep. You've got a same situation with a manager whose future looks uncertain, and probably 60-40, you would say he'll be off at the end of the season as well. You've got an unhappy fan base. You've got players that have overstayed their time at the club. They want to be someplace else. You've got other players, key guys like Callum McGregor, who I still rate really, really highly, but I think he's struggling because I think he's not getting a lot of help in the middle of the pitch. He's not dictating games the way that we'd come to expect him to dictate games from there. So your best natural leaders, and James Forrest, he's still going to be keeping people at the team when he's 52. So
you had a situation when James Forrest came on today ahead of Balak Wisha.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So you've now got this really sort of stars aligning moment where Hearts are getting everything right. Celtic are in a real mess. A mess, albeit of their own making, but a mess nonetheless. And Rangers are an absolute shambles. And what's that? Rangers are now 12 points off the top of the table after 7 games. It's extraordinary. You can discount Rangers at this point. And you were there at Tynecastle. Swanee, I can only imagine that you've walked away from that ground, from that stadium, with the intensity and the buzz and the kind of last minute thrill of the thing. you can feel there's something in the air. You can just feel it.
I said, mate, I sound like a broken down record, Keith. I'm going to keep referring back to Aberdeen last year. No, but honestly, and the reason I sound like a broken down record is because that feeling in Halloween last year, I walked out of Pittodrie last year when Aberdeen beat Rangers 2-1 when Shane Morris scored the goal at the end.
Yeah.
Everybody was floating on air. And you really thought, this is happening. This is really happening. Now, I take your point, Keith, exactly. Rangers were a faltering mess at that time as well under Philip Clement. But Celtic most certainly were not.
Yeah.
Celtic won 16 in their first 18 league games last year, and the other 2 were draws. So Aberdeen were having to perform at a ridiculous level to keep pace with them. Mm-hmm. And they faltered in the second half of the season and Rangers were able to catch them. I watched the last twice I've seen Celtic in the flesh have been Kilmarnock away and today. At both times have scrambled over the line. To win a game they probably weren't due to win with an injury time goal.
Yeah.
Now, I don't look at Celtic the way I have looked at Celtic in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, so whatever years, and see a 10-game unbeaten run in the league. I don't see that. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm struggling to see a 5 or 6 game unbeaten run at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you, because they're nowhere near it. Now, that's when I think Hearts will be able to keep pace, and the fact that I don't see Hearts winning 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row from here. I don't see that either. I mean, Derek McInnes was the first man to point it out last night. And the fact that that's 7 league games Hearts have had, 3 times have scrambled over the line with a win in an injury time. Dundee United, Livingston and Hibs last night. The derby's a different one. But they're not pummeling teams either. So I can't see Hearts going on a really long sustained run either. And that's where I think we need to try and wait and see until further down the season. What I will say, Keith, is I'm going to stick to my guns. I will wait till Christmas until we see what's happening. What I will say is the spirit, the feel-good factor at Tynecastle walking out of there last night was incredible. I mean, you'd think they'd win the league. I mean, obviously a derby. I mean, I think you've just got a picture on screen there. You know what Derek's like? He's like pretty unflappable. I mean, he's on the pitch with his arms outstretched, punching the air. He's running around. And it was, it's really got everybody what's going on there. So that's fantastic, but I'm not seeing... I think anybody who's probably watched every Hearts game has seen a few sketchy performances in there. I'm not trying to take anything away. I'm just trying to make it, if we're talking about title credentials here, what are we seeing? But if Celtic Rangers keep playing the same way they are, there will never be a better chance, because you'll never get the old firm together struggling as badly as they are just now. Celtic are still managing to dig out results, just about, but I don't think that will continue.
Right, so I know your line is come back to make Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, I'll come back to you. If Celtic go to Tynecastle and Hearts win after the international break, I'm going to come back to you then, because if that's not a title challenge, I don't know what is. If that doesn't constitute a team that is throwing down a title challenge, if Celtic go to Tynecastle, perform the way they've performed there today, and Hearts are capable of taking advantage of that and roughing them up a little bit in Edinburgh, then I think you might have to reassess your position on this. But
it will still only be 9 games. It won't even be a quarter of the season. That's my point, though. That's it.
Is it?
I'm not going to budge. And listen, I have watched enough monotonous title races in this country to hope to God that Hearts can keep it going and actually make it happen. But I need to see the evidence, and I need to see a lot more than what I'm seeing just now. But like I say, I really hope it happens, because Derek McInnes is a brilliant manager. We all know that. We all know what Tynecastle's like when it gets going as well. And the feeling last night at full time was, but it wasn't a great game. I'm sure your lads probably watched it. I mean, the conditions made it very difficult. It was windy. It was typical derby, pretty scrappy. You looked at it with 20 minutes to go and you're thinking, well, both of these teams could win this, but neither of them really want to lose it. It was interesting that at 0-0, 70 minutes had passed, there hadn't been a sub.
Yeah.
But it's almost like nobody wants to stick a twist here. What's happening?
And then McInnes waited till the 82nd minute, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. But again, that's a bit like Jimmy Tillene last season. It seemed that everything he threw for the bench, something amazing happened. Yeah. And he throws the boy on for the bench. What a ball! I mean, Hibs are furious about the goal that they lost. David Gray was furious about it, but some crosses are just undefendable, indefensible. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm too busy looking at your fire, Keith, and trying to get a heat. It's getting chilly here, but it was actually, you're right, it was a great finish for Craig Halkett. But
The one thing that I would say, guys, looking at that game yesterday, it's without doubt that Hearts. I mean, you look at Celtic. Hearts would have taken their summer signings in a heartbeat. I mean, they looked brilliant. Braga and Kazagridis, and they were absolutely brilliant. Hearts really creating a lot. And do you think they deserved the win, though? The Swan, there's a couple of people writing in, like Tone says, Hibs were robbed yesterday.
I think a draw would have been a fair result, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, you're the width of a cigarette paper away from Martin Boyle putting Hibs in front.
True.
Now, in fairness to Hearts, I wouldn't have said that was game over, because Hearts have shown this season that when they go a goal behind, it can almost spark them. I think they were a goal behind at Livy, one behind at Dundee United, one 3-0 down to Motherwell at home, got a point. So I wouldn't have said it would have been game over, but in the nature of a derby, I think it would have been a critical blow had Hibs managed to get the goal. So I thought it was a 50-50 game. I thought a draw would have been fair enough.
In the comments before we round it up, guys, William Lang says Hearts are really flying just now. It reminds me of when they nearly won the league under Alex McDonald. Marzuno insists Hearts have gone off sprinting in a marathon. Celtic will walk over the finish line and take the gold as usual.
They'll have to get better. They'll have to be a darn sight better than what they have been recently. And I think even Brendan Rodgers has said today it's as difficult a period as he can remember.
Well, and the other thing, Swanee, to factor into this is there will be Celtic fans that are looking at it and they won't get too panicked because the club's in such a strong financial position. There'll be a belief that, do you know what, see if we are starting to kind of loosen our own collar towards Christmas time, well, we just go in January and we go and sign. But if you look at the last transfer window, on what confidence level do you go into January thinking, that's okay, we've got a transfer window to come in?
I can look around here and I'm pretty sure if there was any Celtic fans in here, like any of them would be confident they'd be buying people in January, whether they're 10 points behind or not. And after what's happened in recent windows, and as you're about to say, the man at the other end of the M8.
Exactly.
You'll not be shy.
No, Tony Bloom will absolutely throw the kitchen sink at it in January if he thinks there's a real opportunity to do this. So I don't think Celtic can look to their financial position and the next transfer window as a potential saviour. If anything, it can make the situation worse.
To be honest, Keith, would you not suspect that he may be prepared to throw the kitchen sink at it if it looks as though seconds almost on the cast? Because I'm not sure about I'm not sure about the European thing next season, but the two teams going to the Champions League qualifiers, yeah?
Yeah,
I think next season's the last time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a huge ask, but who knows?
Do you think they'll need to throw the kitchen sink at it to beat this Rangers side if Russell Martin stays in charge? I'm not so sure, Swanee.
Oh, no, Russell Martin. But I find that, I mean, I know all the things we said at the start of the show, but that cannot continue. Surely.
Well, see if it does continue, Swanee. Rangers have got a job in their hands just aiming to get into the top 6, never mind the top 2.
Wait a second. Normally that comment would be laughed out of court, but it can't be. The way they're playing, it literally can't be.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we finish, guys, I think we can actually look at the Premiership table. Here's how it looks after another big weekend of Premiership action. And as you see, Rangers 8th there, 8 points from 7 games, and Hearts 2 points clear of Celtic. I mean, that game, Keith, on the 26th of October at Tynecastle, Hearts Celtic, that's going to be an absolute cracker. And actually, we haven't mentioned Aberdeen. Goals galore today as they beat Dundee. Massive win for Jimmy Teelan.
Yeah, and given how bad Aberdeen's plight has been this season, the fact is they're just 4 points off Rangers now. Rangers are 11 points off Hearts. So what does that tell you?
Wow.
That tells you that when I'm talking about, I'm not joking when I'm saying Rangers have got a fight in their hands just to secure a place in the top 6. This league is tight as anything. One win is propelling teams, 3 and 4 places up the table at a time. Aberdeen, look, are they through? Are they out the woods? I'm not sure that they are. I do think that they brought in a lot of quality in the transfer window. I just don't think that manager's much longer for that parish. But if they were to make a change and a competent manager come in with that group of players, I don't think Aberdeen are going to be hanging about down the wrong end for too much longer, because they do have the quality. But I'm not sure. In fact, I'm less than convinced that the players that are there that they're buying into Jimmy Tilleen, and I think ultimately that's going to require a change as well. And if Aberdeen make the change and Rangers don't make the change, then it could be really interesting.
Well, the one thing about Scottish football, it's never boring, guys.
No.
I think that brings us to the end of Sunday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all the comments. The comments, again, have been unbelievable, guys. We really appreciate them coming in. Swanee, Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel. Speak to you soon.
Safe travels up the road, Swanee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching at home. We'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Hope you can join us then.
See you then, Daniel.
Cheers.